Welcome to Backmarkers with Kia and Hunt, episode 5, the slowest motorsport podcast in the world, probably. Been living up to that so far, I would say. It's now Tuesday.
We're a little bit late. A little bit.
Just a little bit. Blame Luna.
Kieran was topping up his tan and shaving the beard, so it took a long time.
It did. It did. Letting the side down, jetting off to the other side of the world. And ironically, the next race after this one,
gonna do that.
we have a special guest for this evening.
To be fair, the cat has better opinions than us, to be honest.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah,
no, yeah,
100%.
Just let her do it.
Yeah.
Just let her do it. Much more efficient, saves us a job, and the views go up tenfold.
Yeah, who doesn't like
it's a no-brainer,
pussy?
really. Correct. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know there's laws against that kind of thing, but you know, who's not up for that?
Where is this going? I'm really worried.
It's gone a little bit off-piste. But doesn't every single episode of this go off-piste at some point?
Yeah, I mean...
They usually do.
It shows personality.
At the very least.
How your brain works.
Our.
Hey, I was not part of that at all. At all.
You introduced said pussy, so
she's right here.
It was teeing it up.
Oh,
she is right.
Of course you're gonna lie there, aren't you? Okay. Don't put your paws on my keyboard, you get me?
We're going to get all sorts of people joining this podcast now.
She's literally
and
there.
sending invites left, right, and centre.
Right.
So, believe it or not, we are actually here to talk about Formula One.
Yeah.
We're for round 2 at Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. Big power circuit. Big power circuit.
Shall we start with a little bit of news?
Let's do the news.
Let's do the news. We're not taking that from anyone or any show.
Definitely not going to get cancelled.
No, 100% no. To be fair, they would get cancelled before we would. Let's be honest. There were some quite interesting things that happened during the Grand Prix weekend. One, this is a serious one. Austria has been extended by 4 years, which I'm quite pleased about, because that is a very good track. Very good track.
It is.
Right smack bang in the middle of Europe. Is it in the middle of Europe? I'm literally just guessing.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of.
It is. It's accessible, yeah.
Yeah.
A fantastic track as well. I mean, overtaking a plenty. It's probably helped by the fact there's 3 DRS zones, but still, I mean, it's a really good track. It's challenging. It's demanding. So that's what you want. And Red Bull will be pleased, obviously.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those that while Red Bull are in existence, Austria will be on the calendar. But it's good that that's actually confirmed. You know.
Yeah, because I think this was their last year that they had confirmed. They hadn't figured something out yet. So it's good to see that they've gone, especially when you've got like tracks like Miami and stuff that are confirmed for a good few years. It's good to see that, one that's been on the calendar for a long time, that fans love. It's also a little cheaper to go there as well. So it's
a lot more affordable in the middle of Europe.
Yeah, definitely. So it's good to see that a track like that is going to be around for a while. We can all dress in our orange and be McLaren fans there.
Dungarees. It's going to be wicked. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that needs to be on the calendar. I think it's become one of those classic circuits. And it was a classic circuit, to be fair. It was hosting in the 80s and 90s. So it's always been a feature on the calendar, and I'm glad that it's still going to be that way. Because I think a lot of people... It's sort of underrated, I think. It used to get a lot of criticism, but for whatever reason, it's just got better each year. That's the way with some tracks. Some, they bring in new regulations. Some tracks get better, some tracks get worse. And Austria was one of those that got better, I reckon.
There are some tracks that I question why they're on the calendar, because I don't think they're particularly good tracks, and Austria was not really a track that I've ever questioned.
No.
So yeah, very, very good to see. More years at Austria. Toto will love that. Toto will love that.
He will, which is ironic. But he will.
And the thing that made me laugh most, apart from the one thing you're going to talk about later, during the race weekend, was the no bikes on the track walk. I never knew that Lance Stroll had that much of a control over the FIA after his little bike accident. Now all drivers cannot ride a bike on the track, like nothing on two wheels. They're not allowed. I've always, I can't. What, 90s they were doing bikes on track walks, and now all of a sudden, no, it's dangerous.
No, now it's too late. Now that's enough. We're putting our foot down. The risk is too high. It's like, yeah, you're just reacting to that one incident very recently.
Why?
And going, well, the risk is now unacceptable. It's like, what has actually changed other than Stroll having an accident not on a track?
Yeah, it had nothing to do with the weekend. And then they're going to say it's nothing to do with his accident, but it's weird that it sort of happened.
It's convenient.
Yes.
It's very convenient timing.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite funny. It was really, really funny.
Just pushing it now, aren't they?
Yeah, just a bit. As I was listening to Blake and Dan's podcast. If we were allowed to link stuff on YouTube, I would link it, but I'm sure everyone is aware of Dan and Blake's podcast. He was a strategist for Red Bull, and he was saying about what they do on these track walks, and he was saying like the only thing that, you know, it's the only time that we really get away from everything, where it's just us and the drivers and a couple of mechanics, and all we talk about is what we're having for dinner. I literally rewound it. I was like, nah, come on. They're looking at like where you can make up some time on this Apex, how much you can take of that. Nah, I'm going to have sausage and chips for dinner. Oh,
it's all a joke,
nice.
Isn't it? It's all a joke. It's all a front, frankly. You know, the stuff for Sky Sports, and you'll see them all talking about where the apex is and where the grip is. It's all a front for their dietary habits. Frankly, you know, next they'll be talking about, the type of rims that they're getting put on their car next.
Oh, don't. That's disgusting.
They're not actually talking about what matters. As you said, it's a breather from the melee in the garage, and they're like, we're making full use of this and not really doing anything productive.
I just can't believe that's what they do. I was like, God, I'd love to do that. Oh, what we're going to be talking about? What I'm having for dinner? Bugger off.
Easy.
What a waste of my time.
They don't get paid very much either, I assume. And then go around wandering around the track chatting about dinner. I'd like to think it'd be a bit more glamorous than sausage and chips, however, but they might like their comforts.
You don't know. You don't know.
Gourmet triple cooked chips and Cumberland sausage, maybe. I don't know.
Just to glamorize
it a bit.
Triple cooked chips. Have you seen that? They're burnt. They're burnt chips. There's no potato. They're all burnt.
Yeah, you fry it, and then you fry the coating, and then you fry it again. It's like, no. It's just, they got extra crispy. It's like, yeah, all right.
All right, love. I have no chip left, thanks. But enough of the Gordon Ramsay within me. We've become a cooking show.
Right, this is how chips should be cooked, right?
Yes.
For the next hour.
Talking about chips. It's going to be a great podcast. And Angela Cullen. She's this will step down, but she's parted ways with Mercedes and Lewis, which is, you know, apparently it's been on the cards for a while, and she's just been there, sort of, you know, swapping over to the new trainer and stuff. But they've always had a really, really close relationship, so it was kind of a bit,
absolutely,
you know, a bit like, okay, maybe it's, I don't know if it's her decision, I don't know if it's, you know, Lewis, Mercedes, whatever. They've not been very open about that, but I can see where, you know, 7 years of being on the track, it's quite common that trainers and drivers will switch. Sometimes they move with the driver, sometimes they don't. But she's been a massively consistent part in Lewis's time, especially in Mercedes. It just shocked me that she wasn't continuing on, really.
Yeah, I think, you know, if, you know, Toto's obviously been a really consistent figure for Lewis at the head of the team, leading things, but in terms of having someone right there by your side all the time as a shoulder to lean on, literally, Angela was that person.
Did
So
you
they
just
will
call
have
her
had a
Alan?
very
I'm going to hit you.
Alan Cullen. That's the new trainer.
Oh God! Right, back to Karen.
What was Kaza?
No, Kaza.
But Angela was so important, I think, to his consistency, frankly, and sort of extracting the most out of him. Because, you know, when you've got someone you can lean on that much, you can relax. You're not having to think about anything else other than the objective, which is to put that car as close to the front as you can. And throughout most of the time that they were in this relationship, he was trying to put it on pole and usually had a good shot at it. So I think they both benefited an awful lot out of this. And what is a real shame in the aftermath of that decision is how much has been going around in terms of, oh, well, why was it? What, you know, the timing's really weird. Why have they decided to split it off now? But as you said, maybe there's stuff going on behind the scenes, and it's only just managed to fall into place so that she can get.
She could
can
just
move
be
on
doing.
now, right?
I think what she's doing is she's probably doing the crossover point for his new trainer. I mean, who knows Lewis better than Angela and what he needs from a trainer? That trainer's going to need to know Lewis's diet, his routine, his workouts, and everything. So it could be that, like, there's rumours that it was in motion early last year, but it's just taken time. I mean, I wouldn't drop Angela towards the end of a season. I would look to bring her in and help the new trainer so he knows what he's doing or she knows what she's doing, and then move on. It just so happens to be that she's probably fulfilled that, and now it's time to move on for her, you know? Possibly.
Yeah. Greener pastures, I suppose. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, you know, if you don't need to linger any longer, then so be it. And there might have been a slightly longer transition. I expect there would have been stuff going on through the winter. But they've got to the new season and gone, look, there's some little things we still need to finalise before I disappear. And maybe there was still an element of, you know, I don't want to go yet as well. Because they were so close, right? They still are. And they will be for life, I think. It's that kind of relationship, right? Where
they've been
it's
through
not
too
gonna,
much.
like Lewis and Seb.
Yeah.
They're just not. They're not going to fall out ever. There's not going to be a point where they're not going to make contact anymore. When you've known someone that long, you don't forget.
No.
So no, I mean, she was an integral part of his development, and I would say I suspect he would also say that, you know, the feeling's mutual. It's benefited each of them through doing this. So. I think she's to be commended, really, for the amount of commitment she sort of gave to the team. I know she's probably getting paid very well for her services. Yeah. However, there's a passion involved in a job like that as well, and you have to stick it out through thick and thin. And she did. So, you know, at the highest level of motorsport, at the highest level within that particular sport itself, in Formula One, she nailed it. She absolutely nailed it. So I think she should be commended.
Yeah, and she's going to be really missed. I think she's a wonderful woman, wonderful character, and very good at her job. So
absolutely,
big boots to fill.
Definitely,
but there is.
Yeah, and we know how much Lewis finds himself on the front pages anyway. So therefore, she also by default finds herself on the front pages as well. And the point with that is, But how much do we hear? Because there's a lot of criticism about the circumstances behind the scenes, what was going on. It's like, do we know all the ins and outs of other drivers and their relationship with their physio?
No.
Not very often.
And like I
And
said,
the
it
point there
switches
is,
all the time. Like they don't
yeah,
keep
totally.
always a trainer, especially if they move team. Normally the trainer will stay with the team. They're employed by a company that I think Angela works for, and a couple of the other trainers do. And you know, sometimes they just switch up and go to a different driver. I'm not sure if Pierre's trainer at the moment was for another driver. I can't remember. I know Kevin's changed his trainer. Jensen used to have Mikey. He was with him for a long time, but he wasn't with him the whole entire part of his career. So, you know, it is quite a normal thing. It's just that she had such a part in his journey because he included her in a lot as well.
Yes.
You don't normally see the trainer very much. You don't normally see that part of them, but he was so, you know, this is Angela and she's a massive part of Team LH44 and why I'm here. You know, so
he acknowledged her on numerous occasions, whether that was on social media or publicly or, you know, just anything, even in interviews and stuff. There was so many occasions where he vocally would like put her on the pedestal and said, look, this is the reason why it's one of the key reasons why I'm so successful at what I do at this level, because I've got such a good support network in place that I can always lean on and rely on when I'm not doing too great. There's someone there I can sort of vent to or just, you know, offload a bit. And that way I'm sort of always at my peak. And, you know, it's as much a mental battle as it is a physical battle. So if you've got someone you can rely on like that, then you're already halfway there in terms of extracting the maximum out of the car that you can. So she was absolutely integral for that. And as I say, should be commended endlessly as a prime case study in how to succeed as a physio in a very demanding sport.
Yeah, 100%. You will definitely be missed, Angela. Right. Race weekend.
Right. Onwards to Jeddah.
Onwards to Jeddah. Should we do what we normally do? Go through the teams, talk about their weekend and race and so forth, and do that? We've not actually planned this, have we? We've just gone to...
Yeah, but do backmarkers ever plan their races? Or do they just go, we're going to be at the back anyway?
Whatever. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
We'll just wing it and have fun in the process, maybe.
Well, start the top, Red Bull, again.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy amounts of dominance there. It's insane how far ahead they are. It's a joke.
A handful of laps and Verstappen's in the top 10 and then the top 6 and you're like, okay, great. This car is absolutely ridiculous in terms of pace.
Yeah.
It's just so, it must be so confidence inspiring being able to just push that car and know it will stick. There is no complaints from it whatsoever.
Wow.
There's some very, very fast corners here.
Max had issues in quali. His drive shaft.
True. Very true.
So they're not completely bulletproof, as I don't think any of the teams are. It's very difficult. We're only in the second year of these generation of cars. So, you know, things will happen. But I was quite shocked. I wouldn't have thought there would have been problems for Red Bull because they do look pretty bulletproof. And then the race towards the end for Max, he felt that something was wrong. I mean, he went on to put the fastest lap in, so I don't know what was wrong. But it was a bit like, you sure, love? Are you all right? But yeah, that was definitely...
It reminds me of Lewis during his period of dominance. And you'd hear these random radio messages coming up saying, oh, I'm hearing this weird knocking noise in the car.
Yeah.
Or there's a weird vibration. And they look at it and go,
oh, no,
we'll look at it, Lewis,
my
don't worry.
tyres have
and
gone.
Yeah, right? Yeah, in the worst case. And then the team goes away and looks at it, and then you hear nothing else. And obviously, you know the answer was, don't worry about it. It's nothing. It's okay. Yeah. But this is it. When you're that dominant in the car and you understand the car that well, you'll pick up on every little detail and you think, oh, is that bad? Is that okay? Is that expected? And they've obviously got on top of this car because they can go to that level of detail where there's even the slightest noise. Right, that's something that needs to be investigated. But obviously the car was absolutely fine on race day and made up for all of that strife in qualifying with 15th to 2nd.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane, and a worthy driver of the day at that.
Yeah. And Perez had a good race. No, he lost that in the beginning to Alonso. And we'll go on to Alonso and all his drama soon. But Perez was on average a good half a second faster than Alonso. And on this God, in quali, they were like on average 2 miles an hour advantage on the straight. They had. I mean, I know that only sounds small, but in F1 terms, that's absolutely huge.
Monumental. Yeah.
Like, how have they done that?
I don't know. The level of development they've gone through in the winter.
Yeah.
Genius.
He's a
absolute genius.
He
just keeps finding it. You think, God, they're really dominant. They'll probably find like another quarter of a second next season. And then it's like, in this case, it's 2 mile an hour faster than any other team on the grid. And you think, I mean, who's going to have an answer for that? I'm not quite sure.
No.
And the next best contender, as it looks at the moment, is Aston Martin. I mean, I just find this absolutely extraordinary, this situation, really. And, obviously we were talking about it last week about, it's a power track. Who's going to hold up in those kind of, those demands on the engine? And, well, yeah, there was indications that Red Bull might not. But on race days where it matters, and they pulled it up. So
they were fine. Absolutely fine. And they've got the pace that if they do have these issues like we saw, they can just power through the field. I know, like, because Charles was behind him, wasn't he? But Charles had to go on softs to be able to power up the field, where Max didn't need to do that. And that just shows how far ahead they are of Ferrari in terms of pace. I just don't know who can catch up with them. I know with 2 races in, I know it's very early, but the only team that looks like they're the team that's closest to them on pace is Aston Martin. And they're new to this.
Yeah.
They're new to being a front team. So that worries me in the sense that have they got the ability to keep updating the car? Because they're already playing second fiddle. They're already playing catch up. So have they got what they need within the team? Have they got everything in place that means that they can somehow keep that up throughout the season? Are we going to have like a Brawn season where Brawn were incredible at the beginning, but they dropped off because they couldn't develop the car?
Right.
So
absolutely, I think it is like that, isn't it? Because there's so many teams that are maybe midfield or back marker that make these big gains at the start of the season, but they don't have the capacity to make the development through the season.
Yeah.
And they sort of stagnate or even fall back from where they were. I've seen it with Haas last season. I think Alfa Romeo had it last season where they made these big jump forward, but then slipped back a bit through the season. And it's like that capacity to develop through the season wasn't quite there, despite that big jump through the winter. And there's obviously that fear now, potentially, that Aston Martin may not be able to keep up that level of development to maintain their position or even start closing in on the top team of Red Bull. So it's a good question. I mean, it's going to depend on what's going on internally, what kind of budget they're putting into development for this season, because the budget may be stretched a bit. They've got to try and pull that money in and place it right, and they're still probably learning that to some extent. The extra wind tunnel time might help in terms of getting the car where they want it. So that would be fascinating, because if anything, the grid is closed up and it's given teams like Aston the opportunity to fight near the front, and they've started capitalizing on that straight away, frankly.
Yeah, definitely. They didn't have a particularly bad. Well, Stroll didn't have the best weekend because he DNF'd.
No.
that safety car was stupid. I
Right.
don't, like, what are you doing, bruh? Like,
Car was out of the way.
yeah, the car was totally out of the way. It was in front of a tractor as well. It was down. They could have just pushed it away. And they said that the sensors triggered it. Yeah, they had a load of cameras that showed that he was nowhere near. I mean, did it mix things up a little bit? Yeah, but the point is that the safety car should only be brought out when necessary. And
Absolutely.
that was not necessary whatsoever.
No. And we've seen it previously where there's been a car that's more exposed than that, and they've left it under VSC. So if we're talking about consistency again, there's nothing consistent about that decision because, again, they're not able to, it's not, there's no clear-cut guidelines on this, clearly, because it's subjective in every case. So, maybe we need a safety car, maybe we can leave it under virtual. In this case, they went down the route of saying, well, a safety car is necessary, but
yeah,
again,
because they said
trying to find that
the sensor was triggering it. That's why they go off like a sensor system. They do at Jeddah anyway, and it was that was doing it. Even I don't know why they can't override that and just say, well, no, we don't need that. A virtual safety car was more than enough. And like we had an incident last year, didn't we, where Pierre Gasly, I know Pierre nearly got himself into an accident. I can't remember what race it was, where there was a virtual safety car. And there was a car just on the track. There was a tractor, wasn't there? I can't remember what it was. And Pierre was going too fast. I'm sure it was Pierre. But that should have been a safety car. And it wasn't. It was a virtual safety car. It's just so inconsistent. And it's the safety of the drivers. I mean, at Jeddah, it was fine. No safety worries there. But in situations where it could be, it's like, can you trust that, the stewards, the FIA are going to make the right decision? That's what really concerns me. And it just shows that they're not all there, considering there's quite a few of them now. They're just not.
Yeah, it's just lacking that consistency. It really is. And it's whether, they've overcompensated on this case. So they've gone too safe, frankly. Which, from obviously a safety point of view, no complaints. The drivers are obviously really safe under this circumstance. But then there's other questions brought in. There's other competing goals there. The competitiveness, the sportsmanship, and things like that. And it's like, there's the push and pull of making these kinds of decisions, and it's a fascinating one. I mean, they have the sensor, but they also have the camera views as well. They can verify it, right?
They could see.
The car is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, we've got this sensor going off, but look where the car is. Surely the common sense thing is to leave this under VSC. But the thing is, as well, is that they're put on us on the spot in terms of we need to make a decision now. And if we've got instant data coming from the sensor, we need to use that, because if we're spending too long looking for, it's like VAR, spending too long looking at camera views, people are getting impatient and we might run out of time. We might lose our window, basically.
Yeah.
So, it's a tricky one to call, but obviously in hindsight, it's one of those where, obviously a safety car was overkill. Because, frankly, where the car was positioned, there wasn't any other threat. Especially when you're under the VSC Delta time, you're basically going under a safety car anyway. So, I mean, there wasn't much in the way of threat to the car as well. Out of the runoff as well. There's a big runoff area, so there wasn't any danger, I don't think. Not really. Nothing meaningful. So... But I mean, from Stroll's perspective, such a shame, because he had that amazing overtake.
At the
beginning of the race.
On science.
He had literally only just broke his wrist recently, and he's pulling moves like that around a Ferrari.
Beautiful.
Spectacular.
Beautiful. And I'm glad to see that because he had a bit of an iffy season last year. He wasn't particularly good. I think maybe the stress of being Vettel's teammate was just a bit like, oh my God. And now this year he's got Alonso, which I would say was more stress. But he's had that time of being a teammate to a world champion, I think, to just digest it and go, look, my dad owns this team. I'm good. It doesn't matter if I come last. I'm always going to have a drive.
It's true.
Sorry, Stroll fans.
Yeah.
But it now just releases that pressure. I think they've got a car that can perform, and he doesn't have to perform to Alonso standards. He just has to perform right behind him. And it seems like he can do that. And I do think that, you know, once he has recovered entirely from his wrist, because he's not recovered yet fully,
No.
Consistent third and fourth in the races. I can't see Merc and Ferrari challenging. I really can't. So, you know, on a good day, if Alonso, you know, has a bit of a nap mid-race because he's so old apparently, Stroll could just straight through. Do you know what I mean?
Literally catch him napping.
Yeah.
Because what was interesting was right at the beginning of the race, I was watching the gaps, and Alonso was staying with Perez in terms of DRS. He was
Yeah, he
within
was. He
7
was
or 8
using him.
tenths.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Russell was dropping back.
Yeah.
Which again, absolutely fascinating. You had Russell, Stroll, and Sainz in this freeway battle, and then everyone else behind, like Ocon and all that. But then those three were together, but they were all falling away from Alonso, who was staying with the Red Bull.
Yeah.
Which,
insane.
You know, you look at that and you go, with Stroll, you know, without Stroll's reliability, he's probably going to find his way past Russell as well. And that basically puts him in a position of, as you said, third and fourth. So it's effectively 2x2 through most of the field. And I think it would have been the same thing again had it not been for this reliability issue, which I'm not entirely sure what that was, because they apparently there's a little puff of smoke, so maybe it was internal, but I'm not sure exactly what it was.
No, I tried to find out today, and there's nothing there. Unless I've missed something, by all means, if you're in the comment section on YouTube and you know what happened to Stroll, let us know, because I can't find anything about it. Nothing.
No, I think they're probably still investigating it, but
possibly.
Yeah, it might be one of those that's really elusive. It could be one little component that's failed, and it means nothing else can work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a shame though, because otherwise that would have been probably a fourth place.
Yeah,
at the very least.
I think so
I doubt
too,
he would have caught Alonso because of being behind Russell for so long. But who knows? Who knows? It would have changed that entire race, because you know you'd have had Alonso and Stroll closer together when the safety car was called, and how do you split them up, etc., etc. So yeah, there's all sorts of like push and pull factors going on there. But coming back to that safety car, obviously a big talking point being obviously Alonso coming into the pit lane. Is having had the 5-second penalty for an incorrect starting position, wanted to get that served, but according to the FIA, didn't do it correctly.
So let's just go. We'll continue the conversation of the inconsistency with FIA, shall we? Because not long ago we're just talking about it. We'll carry on with it. I'll come at this from a point that I've been watching Formula One from memory. I've been watching it since I was a baby, but from memory, 93. So that's 30 years. FIA have been inconsistent from those days. Like, they have always had a problem with inconsistency. But this, he was out of place, wasn't he, on the grid? He was over to the right, I think he was. I'm not sure. He was over. He hadn't gone across the white line. He hadn't gained an advantage, but he wasn't lined up.
Yeah, he was over the white line on the left side, yeah.
Oh, was it left?
A bit too wide, yeah. Just a bit, he wasn't outside the box, though. He was just sort of over the edge of the line, yeah.
Bit over it. But there were also other cars. If you actually look at the starting grid, there were other cars that were just a little bit off as well. But Alonso arguably was off a little bit more. So, okay, 5-second penalty. Let's go. Nowhere in the rule book does it say that a jack or items cannot be touching the car during the penalty. Okay?
Right.
So I was confused as to why that was even being looked at. Now, I know that teams can't go to the stewards now and say, he's just done this and she's just done that. They can't do that anymore. They're not allowed to do that. So that's why George and his engineer were going back and forth and talking about this. But there is a rule in the rule book that states, is it after 25 minutes? I think it's 25 minutes or 30 minutes. If a decision isn't made, then they cannot enforce anything. Luna, I'm going to kick you. Sorry. I'm not going to kick her. But she's... There is
Intruder alert.
Intruder alert. Luna, bug off. If I think it's 25 minutes. If they haven't come to a decision within 25 minutes, then they cannot enforce anything. There was a similar situation with Michael Schumacher a few years ago, in which they took it further and got it reinstated for him because it was 30 odd minutes or something. But that is still in the rule book. So lap 19 is when Alonso pitted and apparently broke the rules. Yes. And they left it until after the podium celebration to then enforce a 10-second penalty. 5 seconds for not serving the penalty properly, and then 5 seconds, which was for the original penalty, enforcing that. Which is ridiculous. They had more than enough time to go over that. There was continuous messages back and forth. They knew that something was going on. Honestly, I was so shocked when he got that penalty. I was like, this ain't right. And again, it's inconsistency. Have they not learned from Abu Dhabi when the world blew up because of what they did? Like, they just don't learn. Exactly. They don't learn.
No. Not a bit.
And they've even admitted it in the statement. It was like, we've looked over it and we haven't followed our own rules. Yeah, I've got the statement, but it's like a 20-minute long read. But it is basically, we actually didn't follow protocol. So here's your P3.
It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. The standards they're meant to be working to, and they can't even keep it consistent on a basic race penalty situation.
Greatest motorsport in the world. Basics. This is British touring car. Probably. It was Harvey that's put it on Twitter. Tom Harvey. He literally said, "British touring car have a better penalty system and a better stewarding than Formula One."
Yeah,
it's insane how bad
it is.
It is. And they've got a brand new fan base in Formula One as well.
Yeah. The stewards' room is so much better equipped in Formula One because of the budget. But then could you argue it's too complicated then? Because they keep making so many mistakes. BTCC is a lot simpler. Or just read it. Be prepared.
Read it.
Yeah, you could have people dedicated to a certain section so they absolutely know for sure. Or just get everybody to understand it before they start. That'd probably be the better way to do it. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you're a steward, you probably need to know your rules. Or good luck assessing any incident.
They are just throwing out penalties without even knowing the rule book. They don't know it. And it's hard to know. It's a very big rule book. But surely when you're enforcing a penalty or going to enforce a penalty, you should be looking at that rule and seeing what they have broken. Like, it's a given.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why that rule is in there in the first place in terms of, enforcing within 25 minutes so that it doesn't linger.
Yeah.
So that they can get decisions made rapidly. Well, not rapidly, because you need to make the right call, but just efficiently, right? Just get it moving, get these decisions made. And if they want to appeal, they can appeal.
Yeah.
But here's the decision. Here's how it's working, right? Just let's get it done. So the fact that they've completely disregarded that, because that's a pretty fundamental part of it. You talk about the structure of the stewarding system there, and that's a key part of it. Because if they hadn't admitted their mistake here, how often was that going to happen where they keep, not even adhering to their own rules? It could have, it's one of those. I mean, how many times is it going to take before they learn?
I mean, they don't have the same stewards, do they, at every race? And I think they had different stewards that was at Bahrain compared to Jeddah, because Bahrain, they made a much quicker penalty to walk on. They did it a lot quicker. So I'm guessing that they had different people there. But they do have like 4 people now, don't they, who deal with all the penalty system. And because it used to be Michael Massey, and he was the decider. He was the one that decided who got the penalties. Now there's 4 of them apparently that can assess the situation. So one person could be given that role as, okay, we've heard this on the radio. Can you look at this and see if that person needs a penalty? There's no room for error in Formula One. And like I said, I hate to bring it up again, but Abu Dhabi in 2021 should have been the biggest eye-opener that they are going to lose so much if they don't get this right. They've got so many eyes on them. It needs to be sorted now. We need consistency. Absolutely. It's just no room now. It's not fair.
No, not at all. And they've got a reputation that they've got to uphold. And I say a reputation to uphold. They've also got a reputation to recover as well.
Yeah.
Because of the damage that's already been done in the past.
Yeah.
And it takes minutes to lose trust, but years to regain it. And this was the opportunity to prove the changes we've made have been beneficial to the sport. That is an indication that it hasn't been beneficial for the sport. And people will go, here we go again.
Yeah.
Here we go again. We've seen it all before. Nothing's changed. So why should we bother?
Yeah.
And that's the problem. You'll get people who have given it a second chance going, forget it.
Yeah.
I'm not that bothered. Because am I just going to be led to believe that we are going to change again? How many times can you go, okay, I'll give you another chance? Eventually people's patience will run out. So you've got to set that standard and maintain it all the way through. Otherwise, what are people going to think?
It was interesting. I read that the viewership, I expected this in Germany when Vettel left, but their viewership has dipped a lot. And I can see that this year. I can see that across the board. I think we reached a height with the viewership, and I think because of the dominance of Red Bull, I'm sorry, Red Bull fans, I'm sorry, but it does play a part. I'd say if it was Merc, and the fact that there's just so many inconsistencies, you cannot trust that you're going to have a fair race in Formula One anymore. You can't.
No. I don't think so.
It's just not there. That's huge.
No, it's difficult to have faith in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember the last time I did have faith in it, mind. It's been a long time.
No.
But recently, in the last few years, it's just gone downhill very, very quickly for some of the decision making that's going on internally. 2021 was the peak, obviously, in terms of how the sport was being portrayed, and it's just somehow been allowed to maintain this standard again. And it's come on, you need to learn from your mistakes. You need to prove that you're learning and demonstrate it, but it's not happening for some reason.
No.
It's a real shame. Pinnacle of motorsport. Prove it.
Apparently. Much to do. Mercedes. God, I don't know if I should talk about Merc. I've not told you, have I? I forgot.
What's that?
I may have slightly upset Team LH44.
Oh no.
I might have annoyed them a little bit.
What did you do?
I might have. Look, I baited them a little bit, right? But in my defense, right, it ties in with this weekend, right? So this weekend at Merc, George has got quite a bit of hate this weekend, and he's had it previously, especially last season. But he got a lot. He got a lot of a percentage, I'll say, because it's not all of Team LH44 that are rude. But he got a lot of, he should have moved out the way. And there were worse than that. That was just sort of mild. And I may have responded to a stupid tweet with a stupid reply. Because the tweet was just like, Lewis isn't battling his teammate. He's never battled his teammate. Max doesn't battle his teammate. Vettel didn't battle his teammate. Michael Schumacher didn't battle his teammate. I mean, I don't know what you were watching, love, but seriously, your main competitor when you're at the pinnacle of your sport is normally your teammate, isn't it? Right?
Exactly.
So I may have put something on the lines of he didn't beat Jensen.
It's true.
And, you know, that may have caused a few Lewis Hamilton fans to attack. You know, they rounded up their allies and they came on the... And look, I mean, it was bait. It was bait. I know that is what we have as Jensen Button fans. We have that we scored more points. Like, you know, we scored more points than him. That is what we've got, right? And we just put it in the back pocket for stupid comments like that, and just put it in there.
Right. Yeah.
I put the stats up because I had to respond. By this point, I'd already had 2 death threats. I thought, I'm on a roll.
Oh my
Let's
God.
go.
Start.
So I put the stats. Yeah.
Death threats tick. Yeah, got it.
Done. So I put the stats up. And look, let's be honest. Out of the 3 years, Lewis beat Jensen on 2 championships. He got 10 wins compared to Jensen's 8. He massively outqualified him. I literally dobbed myself in it because I mean, it's quite funny. But I also did not leave out the fact that he scored more points than him overall. And I think that tweet got about 20 to 30,000 views. And they just, I mean, they bless them. They took the bait and they ran. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And it didn't matter if, I mean, did I really try and explain it to them? No. I did accidentally drop the George Russell stats from last year when George Russell outscored him as well. But, yeah. I didn't do the Max Verstappen. I didn't bring that up. Or Alonso. I didn't do it.
I didn't a nuclear bomb.
I didn't drop the Nico. I did not do that at all. But yeah, they came for me today. That's what she said. They were after me. By the end of it, I mean, I've had messages like, Jesus Christ, you're not going to make this. You're not going to make it alive out of here. I don't think I will. Because I've had a total of 7 death threats.
7?
7. Which I have reported to Twitter. They have also gone to the police. Because that is what's worrying about this whole thing. Because what came from this was the amount of people that came forward and said, I've had death threats.
Yes,
and it was a lot. And it was like, Jesus Christ, this is, look, you can have an opinion, but threatening someone's life. And, you know, all jokes aside, you know, I did bait them, and I will take the repercussions of the bait. It's fine. I'm not arsed. But it's just, and they miss a huge point. The reason why we always talk about Jensen and him outscoring Lewis is because of the achievement that it is.
Right.
You know, totally. Jensen is consistently compared to Lewis all the time because he's British. They're both British. And for him to stand there and go, I scored more points, it's a huge achievement. The same way as George Russell last year coming into Mercedes, beating Lewis on points is huge. And it's because it's Lewis Hamilton. And instead of taking it as a compliment, they take it as a massive insult. You cannot like any other driver than Lewis. He always wins. I did a bot response to everyone, which is that Lewis is the greatest driver, and I'm so sorry that I ever doubted and whatever. I can't remember word for word. I just literally every single person who commented on it, I just put this bot tweet out because I was just like, yeah, I'm done with this situation now. Yeah. But yeah, I'm now. Do I even dare speak about Lewis Hamilton?
Oh, they'll be tracking you now.
I know, they will be
now. They get their pitchforks sharpened, ready for next week.
It's been a while though, because to be fair, I've been a Lewis fan since 2021 because of how he was treated. Like, I did not like that at all, and I was like, no, do you know, yeah, I have nothing to say about Lewis in any way. I didn't really have much to say about him bad before, other than against Massa. But, I just found this utmost respect for him. But apparently, have I said anything negative about him? Friday, they looked terrible, Merc. That's probably the worst thing. And then they just improved. Just randomly, just like, here's some power.
They found it. They found something. They go through the setup and they find a little pocket of performance. Like, right, let's run with it quick before we lose it. And that it was like that. The potential's in the car clearly, but they're just trying to find that balance. And it's like we're going back to this point before about them sort of teetering on two design philosophies, right? And they're still trying to understand the one they've currently got, let alone consider whether or not the other one was going to be better.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, they're spending this time trying to figure out what the right setup is. And usually practice is a case of, let's just tailor it and we'll probably find a couple of attempts if we're lucky. But they've probably found it over half a second just through Friday to Saturday. So
yeah, definitely.
It's fascinating to see how even these sort of minor changes and this little bit of data coming in from the practice sessions can just fundamentally change your weekend with the right decision.
Yeah.
And they needed that, or they could have probably been behind Ferrari quite easily.
Nobody wants that.
No, not at the moment. Good God, no. Not at the moment. Jeez. No thanks.
They had a bit, I think where that kind of stemmed from my issue today on the Twitter, they had this incident where they started Hamilton on hards, which was the wrong decision, and then they pitted and put on the mediums, and he was behind George, who was slower. You could tell that Lewis was lifting and coasting, and I don't think he was saving. I think he was literally being slowed down that much. And they didn't radio through to George to say, look, move out of the way, but they kind of hinted, and George picked up the pace. And then there was no more to be said of it. I mean, I would argue that Hamilton probably had to save his tyres a bit more. I know tyres were quite good this weekend. Kind of difficult to see how tyres were this weekend because they're on the hards and the mediums, they're very close. But yeah, I thought it was quite unusual because Lewis is favourited, and that's fine.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, but I found it quite funny that they didn't directly tell George to move out of the way, and they just hinted at him, look, pick up the pace. George did it and managed to keep a gap to Lewis, who was unarguably the faster tyre.
Yeah, there was a lot of race management going on between the two, and at face value it looked like, oh, Russell's got better pace than Lewis, but this, as you rightly point out, there was push and pull from the team, like, oh, we need you to speed up, and need therefore Russell to speed up, and so on. And they were responding. That's the key thing. I think they were both responding to that and both delivering what the team were after, and I think that's reassuring for them because they'll get valuable data. It's like, we tell you to do this is what we get, and it's consistent. So at least we got some sort of reconciliation there between the driver and the team. But in terms of actual pace, it's like, where are we at? It's still lagging a bit.
They're like a second behind
where we want to be on the front.
I mean, those overtakes that Max did, he just flew by.
With the DRS, it was about 17 miles an hour faster in a straight line with the DRS open. And as Crofty put it, it looks like F1 against F2.
Yeah, it did. It really did. And that's it. As a fan of Formula One, I want to see the teams battle with each other. I want to see Lewis versus Max again. Of course I do.
Hell yeah. Definitely.
And it worries me just how they're going to make that leap a second. Where are they finding that?
It's a big ask, isn't it?
It's huge.
Big ask. During the season as well.
Yeah.
And the other question is that potential sitting in the other design philosophy they've got sitting on the back burner? Will they ever discover it? Are they ever going to try it? And then obviously they've got a lot of big decisions to make, Mercedes, in terms of where they go from this position. They've got to basically decide, look, where's the potential in this philosophy? Can we afford to switch it up fundamentally? And, are we going to have enough time to even start knocking on the door? Because last season they were getting there towards the end. They don't want another season where they're catching up towards the end.
Yeah.
So it's like, we better get a move on now. But Red Bull and Aston and Ferrari will also be getting a move on as well.
Yeah,
as well
that's the
every team on the
thing.
grid.
Yeah, that's the thing.
A constant race. If you sit still, you're going backwards.
Yeah.
So you have to move forward to stay where you are. So it's a big ask to make any progress through the field. So unless they've got something like in the box, in their back pocket somewhere, it's going to be a big, big ask. And they've got a lot of work to do.
Definitely.
Again.
Definitely. And just from our views, I would just like to say a little thing that I know all Team Lewis Hamilton fans are not like the fans that I've endured today. But one of the points that I would like to make, that if you are receiving any hate like that online and IRL, but talking about online, if you are getting death threats, you must report them immediately. It's not acceptable. There's a law against it. We watch a sport that we all love. We don't have to have the same opinions, and no one has the right to treat you that way. So please do make sure that it is reported. And I'm all for Lewis doing well. I hope that Merc can do something, because honestly, next is Ferrari. And I would argue that Ferrari are even further back than Merc right now. Leclerc had a 10-place penalty because of his reliability issues.
And it is woes, isn't it, for him?
It is.
Yet again, same thing again, like nearly, but not quite. And the whole debacle with the team again. I was talking about their new strategist. Maybe that'll solve things.
No. He wasn't told vital information, was he, at all? During the safety car, Leclerc.
That's right.
Wasn't told to pick up the pace.
No,
because they pitted. They pitted, didn't they? And he didn't do it. It's like, what? How are you not feeding that information? What are you doing? Are you watching something else? Like,
they must be distracted. Must be busy watching the golf or something. I have no idea. But either way, they're not concentrating on what they should be, because they should have seen that. Yeah. Eventually they did, but it's too late. It's like, yeah, I would have picked up the pace if you told me, So give me that information beforehand so I can respond to it.
Yeah.
Not afterwards when I've got to sit there and look at the rear diffuser of the guy you're telling me to pursue. Too late. It's too late. He's like, the team's like, copy. And he's like, yeah, but come on.
Yeah.
Like, you not realise your mistake. Yeah.
He was so
totally.
What are you doing? I'm giving everything. He was doing quali laps in the race.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a shame for him. They started him on soft tyres, and Pirelli had said that the softs weren't it. Now, it got him through the field, and I do think that, he probably did need to be on the softer compound because they don't have the pace. But it left him vulnerable, and that's just another thing that Ferrari have done that you think, well, that did not make sense in a lot of ways in the long term, to put him on the soft when you'd been directed to not do that.
Right.
And then, I honestly feel like we're going to watch the talent of Leclerc and Sainz be absolutely wasted because of Ferrari's mistakes. Because where do they go? Where do they go from this point? Ferrari aren't learning. They need to get rid of that ego. They need to boil it back to basics and really get the key points fixed, working. Them all singing off the same hymn. Like, that, I feel so bad for Charles, because he could be up there battling with Max. He's got the pace.
Definitely.
And he needs another drive.
Yeah,
Sorry,
he was
Ferrari
doing that at the
fans.
beginning of 22 as well, wasn't he? No, exactly. Yeah, very, very sorry to the fans, because frankly, they're the ones who have to put up with this for year after year after year of nearly but not quite.
Yeah.
So close. We're there, kind of, but not in a really confident position. We're just sort of knocking on the door. It's always that. It's just like you're right on the edge all the time. And, in the case of Charles, he's the one is on the very knife edge of that. And he's the one that's feeling all that pressure. And it's a guy who sets his standards way higher than anyone else on the grid, I would argue. And that doesn't do his head any good either, by the way. It's not good for his health, setting your standards that high, because you're leaving yourself very little wiggle room for mistakes. See France 2022 for more details. And he's, because of that, if the team's not meeting those standards either, he will get upset. He will be irate with them. And any driver would be upset if the car's not performing, but there is no one that wears their heart on their sleeve more than Charles.
Yeah.
And he will not rest until it's a top car. So when he comes back the following season after a car that's running near the front to find his fourth best team, it just is not sitting right with him at all.
No.
He's not patient anymore.
No.
There's no patient Charles Leclerc anymore.
I don't blame him one bit. I really don't. And I think if the opportunity was there for him, I know he loves Ferrari, and that's the thing when you become a Ferrari driver, it's a very special thing. I think everyone gets taken in by the love of Ferrari. Many drivers have fallen for it. And in the end, it never works out. I just feel like if Red Bull were to go, Charles, as much as we don't want to see someone who's on the same level as Max in our team, it would also be quite good to have. I'm not saying that Sergio couldn't, Sergio proved it this weekend. He was fabulous. But, if I was Charles, I'd ditch. I'd dump. I'd go. Even if Aston Martin had a position.
Oh, he'd be all over it.
I'd go. I'd just go. It. He's given him. He has given his loyalty to Ferrari. They have given him a sack of shit. So
they've occasionally given him something that he can battle Max with.
Yes,
they've occasionally had something. So beginning of last year, I think was the key one. They ruin it with strategy. Yeah. Exactly. What do? Replace the strategist. Same thing, different day.
Not exactly the same.
It's Groundhog Day. And it must be driving him into the floor. And they're just beating him down. It's like, no, please be patient, but here's another shit race. But please be patient with us. Here's another shit one. But please be patient. It's like, that's enough now.
Yeah.
Can you just start delivering for me? Because I'm putting in my effort. Can you put in yours? And this is where that impasse is going to be. And I don't know what's going to go on internally. It could get really messy, frankly. Because Charles has always been quite one of those classy characters on the grid, but you can see that fire coming out now, and it's like there's going to come a point he's just going to get really.
He's going to blow.
Forget it, I'm out of here. Yeah,
he's going to blow.
He will.
He's going to blow, and I don't think anyone would judge him or blame him. This is going to be a long one. This is going to be a really, really long one. Speaking of long one, Kevin Magnussen scored a point.
I might have guessed.
Oh my god, that battle between him and Yuki.
Oh wow, yeah.
Beautiful when we saw it.
Right, yeah, we briefly did.
Yeah. I don't care what anyone says, that overtake from him. He locked up and he still did it. And all Yuki could say was Haas.
Yeah, he didn't do a Max and just cut the corner. Forget it. I missed the corner. Forget it. He actually did make the corner.
He did.
So fair play to actually get the car stopped just because he did lock up. Yeah, and then he let off the brake and he just got it. Just got it. So honestly, a really, really good move, to be fair. Yeah, and I think the TV director just picked up on it later on. Like, oh god, it's the battle for a point. It's battle for a point. It's not just a battle near the back between, the likes of McLaren and Williams or whatever. It's not like that. It was like, there's a point. There's a point up for grabs there. We need to watch this. They caught it late, but it was a good battle. Really good battle.
Yeah, very good. Hulk out-qualified Kev. They had quite a good qualifying, to be fair. They seem to have took a little bit of a step up, especially during the race. I don't know if it's because it was a street circuit, maybe, that it's better for their car. I'm not quite sure. I was quite worried about them for this race, but they just seem to have took that step up to put themselves more in the midfield, where I think they were lacking that at Bahrain. So it was good to see that Haas have took that step. For me anyway, because I'm a Haas fan.
Well, it's good to see that competitiveness through the grid as well, you know, and you've got different midfield teams jumping up the order with each Grand Prix. I don't know whether that means they'll be there or thereabouts at Melbourne, but you never know. It's one of those that's quite a high power circuit now due to the changes they made a couple of seasons ago. So, yeah, I mean, look, you've got to capitalize on those times where you got the car under you, and they definitely did.
They do, yeah, definitely. McLaren.
Yeah, I mean, McLaren had a really kind of interesting day at the office.
Do you know what my notes are for McLaren? Slow.
One. Slow.
Mm-hmm. Oscar crashed with Gasly, didn't he, at the beginning?
He did.
They didn't get into Q2, did they? They didn't get into Q2. That's the first thing. No. Then the right side of his end plate flicked up and hit Lando's car.
Of all the cars.
All of the cars.
The other McLaren.
Honestly, let's just go and get that. Honest to God. Lap 1. They're both in the garage. Double stacking. I think that's kind of why they were near the back, in all honesty, wasn't it? Because they did have to do a bit of a double stack, but they were slow.
Yeah.
It looks a handful.
was mighty.
Yeah.
Qualifying.
Yeah.
That P8. Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to be commended for that. But I know what you mean.
Did he get through?
They were slow.
I can't remember.
You know, I think it was P9, and then there was penalties, grid penalties. So he ended up P8 on the grid.
Yeah, okay.
But he did get Q3, I think.
Oh, right.
Because he was P9 in qualifying. So actually, yeah. But it was Lando had a really tough one.
Yeah, it was Lando.
Lando had a really tough one. But you're right, though. Yeah, fine. The qualifying pace might have been there. Doesn't matter in the race if your car's too slow. And yeah, they had those issues at the beginning. But come on, I mean, you know, if the car's there, you should be making more moves. And they were getting stuck in battles right at the back of the field. And you think you should be getting this done and moving on. Come on.
Yeah. But it's
your car's all right. Get a move on. No.
They've got a lot to do. I still am confused as to how they are, where they are, how they're so far back, how they got it so wrong. I don't understand at all, and it's not great to see. But on the plus side, one of the things that I did like to see from them was that I know Lando was told to not go too hard on Piastri, and you know, stepping into the boots of being Lando Norris's teammate when the team is so centered around Lando, to see the team actually, you know, saying, look, don't be too hard on him. Let's get some experience under his boots, because that's what they were doing. Let's get him some experience under his boot. And he got past. And he finished 15th and Lando finished 17th. So he ended up skipping up to, who was P14? I missed someone? Have I missed it? Oh, AlphaTauri.
AlphaTauri.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that was quite good to see. Lando seemed to not have a real problem with that, or we didn't hear that. Because I don't think they were quite as nice to Danny.
No, not really. No, I don't get that impression there. I think it's the age of the drivers as well, potentially. And the kind of feedback they might be getting from Piastri is a lot more constructive as well. Being a younger driver is a lot more eager and keen and engaged, enthusiastic, and so on. Whereas you've got someone like Daniel who's probably just seeing that car and going, forget it. I'm not that engaged now, whatever. But someone like Piastri is very hungry to learn and help the car improve, because like I've got a long career ahead of me at this team. I need to impress. So working overtime to try and show the team how much he values this opportunity. So I think to that end, he's making a lot of effort to move the team forward as much as possible. and he's been delivering. I have to. You look at just at qualifying. I know they had a tough start to the race, and whether that was anything to do with Piastri or not, But if you look at the pace itself, Piastri was really shining in that team, and the indication at Bahrain in terms of the radio was that they are putting a lot of emphasis on him. They're not saying you're a number 2 driver, please learn from Lando. He's demonstrating pace, and as a result, they're getting confidence in him. That's really important for the whole team, for their development as well. You need both drivers on side.
What does Lando do from this point? If you were Lando Norris, you've dedicated time to McLaren. They're going backwards. You are arguably a driver that's quick enough to be battling for world championships. Mercedes come knocking at your door. Red Bull come knocking at your door. What do? Loyalty or run?
You go quickly.
You run.
Because
you run.
If there's a clause in his contract, because he recently had a big contract renewal, Lando, 5 years, 4 or 5 years. And as a result of that, he might feel to some extent that he's tied down. But there's going to be a clause in there somewhere.
Oh, of course there will.
There'll be a trigger clause. Like in football, there will be a trigger clause in the contract. You spend this much money, you can have me. That's fine.
Yeah.
So, if, as you say, the likes of Mercedes, Ferrari, even Aston come knocking, he'll jump at it.
Yeah.
Because he has given them a lot. And they gave him a lot as well, to be fair, because they gave him his first shot.
Yeah, of course.
In Formula 1 as the test driver, reserve, development driver, whatever you want to call it. In fact, it was development test driver and then a reserve driver with the team, and worked his way up, built up experience, and then after getting through F2, bam, you're in. Right.
Yeah.
Get you in the car full time. And that was his way into the sport. And I'm sure he's very appreciative of McLaren for that. But then he's getting older now, getting wiser, getting more pro. And as a result, he's going to be thinking about his future a lot more. And if that car is not delivering, future's elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Will be. Yeah.
It's a shame because, McLaren and Lando, it works. It does work in a lot of ways, but he's got to think now that, he just can't be loyal to them. They've got no future plan. I just don't think they know what to do next race with the car.
No.
So it is scary to think that he's going to sit there for another 4 years in a car that they are struggling to get out of the backfield. That is just, I wouldn't like to be Lando Norris right now.
Yeah.
Not at all. I love his money. But I wouldn't like to be.
It's amazing to say as well, because that's their perspective, isn't it? Because you look at it and they go, they get to drive F1 cars for a living.
Yeah.
Right. But they also want to compete.
Yeah.
So you can go, just appreciate what you've got, but it's also a case of, driving around lap after lap in these cars gets a bit boring after a while.
You are a racing driver. If
That's
you're
right.
a racing driver and you don't want to win, there's something wrong. What is the point? They are the most competitive people in the world. Like, look at Lance Stroll this year. 2 weeks after he broke his wrist, he was in that car. That is how competitive these drivers are. There's no way that he's just gonna go, well, all right for another season.
I could take a load off today. I'm not that worried about getting any points this race.
No,
I'll just take it easy this time and get some points next week.
Yeah, does it
But
matter?
you're not going to last very long if that's your attitude.
No,
definitely not.
Alpine looked much stronger. I am so shocked at them. I thought they were going to be near the back, and they had the 5th fastest car.
Exactly.
They just crept under the little rug and gone, you know what, we're not bad. We're all right.
That's what I was saying. Like the minor setup changes, if you can nail it, you're going to jump up a few places in the midfield. At least you're going to jump up a few places. And I think Alpine showed that really well this weekend compared with Bahrain. They just found a sweet spot, and their car suits that track. more than Bahrain. I'm not saying it suits Jeddah. It just
Yeah, but
suits it
just
more
more.
than it did at Bahrain. Yeah. And as a result of that, they were in a really good spot. I got to be honest.
8th and
By their
9th.
standards, I'd say they would do well.
8th
Yeah.
and 9th, good
I
points.
mean, double points can be really important for the team. And obviously, they got that really interesting teammate battle going on there as well. Ocon and Gasly, a French team. I mean, there's a strong power dynamic, I think, between those two. A bit of a power struggle. So when you got races like that where they both get points, but Ocon pipping Gasly, you got to think, what's the attitude like in there? You know, yeah, I wonder.
I love to be a fly on the wall and speak
yes, I
French.
really would. What are the private conversations like? You know, where it's like, I can't believe you beat me. I can't believe you beat me. If only I was a bit quicker on that lap. But don't worry about it, Gasly. You'll get him later. It's like, no, I can't let it settle. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is those conversations like? I'd love to know. Because
I
yes,
think
they're doing
quite
brilliantly, but
nice.
there's always competition.
I think they're quite nice to each other. Yeah, I think they are. But behind the backs, they're like, bitch.
Right.
I fucking
Publicly,
hate him.
they're great. Publicly, they're great.
I love Gasly. Gasly's a great addition to our team. Thanks for the chat, Ocon.
You're right. Yeah.
It's like the Haas teammates. There ain't no way. Like, Kevin's quite laid back, so he'll just go, whatever. Like, I'm not giving you the time of day. But Hulk, nah.
No, not a chance.
No, not the way he is. It's so funny.
Not a chance.
AlphaTauri really struggled again. Another team that's kind of gone backwards. I mean, once upon a time, we were looking at AlphaTauri and McLaren for 3rd and 4th in the championship. And now, you know, we've got... I mean, Yuki did brilliant against Kevin.
Yes, he did.
He really did. And he was, honestly... Yuki gives his heart and soul. He really, really does, in a machine that isn't up to standards. But De Vries had a bit of a... I don't know, this weekend he's just sort of been a bit... making a bit too many mistakes. I don't know if I'm expecting...
Off the boil.
Yeah, I don't know if just because Nick's got a lot of experience in racing, we forget that he's like 26 or something like that. He's been in Formula E, he's done a lot of racing. I know this is his first season in Formula 1, we have to remember he's a rookie, but I just kind of expected him to pick it up and gel with the car a lot quicker than like Sargent and, do you know what I mean, the other rookies kind of thing.
That's right. And now you can spin that one of two ways. Is it the fact that De Vries is not picking up the car, picking up that the performance of the car as quickly as we might have expected, or is Tsunoda just that good? You know,
it is.
I'm not sure. I think it's more the other way. I think it's more that De Vries is not gelling with the car yet, personally. But you never know if De Vries is really like already quite on it. Then Tsunoda's massively outperforming.
Yeah.
So
I don't think he's on
one
it.
or the other.
I don't think he's found that. I think he found it easier with the Williams car. And like I said, the AlphaTauri isn't where they would like it to be. And you can see that there's slight balance issues and, you know, things like that. So I'm not saying it's an easy car and he should just get to it and adapt. But yeah, I don't know. I hope there's been lots of talk about Nick probably shouldn't have been in F1 and it's a bad idea. I hope it isn't going to work out that way. Poor little thing.
No, I think he needs a little bit more time. It's only race 2.
Of
He just needs a little bit longer to build up that confidence again. And just, I think credit needs to go to Tsunoda as well, because he was under pressure for not staying in F1 either. Yeah. And he's really stepped up. Yeah. You know, I'm glad he's been given that chance because he's demonstrating that, this is a good call. He's a very talented driver. The next Kobayashi, frankly. Very, very talented. You know, a very reliable driver. Someone who's on their day will probably end up getting a podium. It's just that kind of talent. Yeah, just need a bit longer.
Yeah, definitely. Williams or Albon had brake issues. They did all right in quali, didn't they? Sargent did a brilliant lap and then it got removed because of track limits, and then he just sort of, it unsettled him. didn't it? Kind of, it just, but why did that go right? And then he just ended up having problems. He spun, and then it was just, it was so sad to see because he's been really good. For rookies, I think he surprised me a little bit. But it was a shame. He got P16 in the end. Arguably, I think the car could have got more out of it, and it probably would have got a bit more with Albon, but he had brake issues, unfortunately.
Yeah. Albon's clear team leader. Sadly, reliability getting the worst of him. And I think with Sargent, it's a case of, look, he is a rookie, and there's that rookie mentality there, and any little thing that can go wrong will really affect him. You've got to be able to shake it off really quick. If you can't shake it off, then, well, it's going to plague you and you won't concentrate.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those. I think it's just going to take a little time for him, really, just to sort of understand how to deal with those little hiccups and get past them and move on, which he will. He will. Yeah. It's just a shame, but he's got a good teammate in Albon to help sort of guide him along. Definitely, I would say, because Albon's been really performing well, very consistent. That's what you want. Reliability, what you want of the driver. You could use some reliability of the car though.
A little bit, yeah, just a tidge, and they are quite quick. To be fair, they have took a step up, which I'm really glad to see because I've not enjoyed watching Williams in their decline. It has been horrible. So yeah. Last team, Alfa
Romeo.
Bottas. Just got to point out, because Bottas was at the back, right? And I didn't understand why he was there because it hadn't been televised. Have found out now. He ran over Piastri's car part that he had lost on lap 1.
Oh,
and he had floor damage.
Oh, okay.
So that's why he was struggling so much.
Right. So not just Lando hit it, Bottas did as well.
Bottas ran over it. Yeah.
Okay.
So it caused him some damage because that again wasn't televised. We don't know what he was doing. I was like, why is he running around on softs? Like, what's he doing? But no, the mullet tash professor it wasn't his fault. It was, he just ran over it. And it was quite a good battle with Zhou. He got 13th in the end. Those guys were so close together. Like, it was insane. And the McLaren boys were at the back. And arguably, he held his own in a car that I don't think is quite up to, where he kind of was, the pace that he had, kind of thing.
No.
It's not there for him, is it, Alpha? It's a shame.
Yeah, there's a trend in this midfield at the moment because it's so close. Any little issue, any little problem, any little setup discrepancy, any little bit of lack of confidence could cost you 3 or 4 places.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room for error, and I think Alpha are going to have to sort of overcome that with time. Realize, we can't be making too many of these mistakes. Got to get it nailed, otherwise we're costing ourselves opportunity at points. And considering where they were last season as well. They were in the points a fair bit, and there just seems to have been this big mix-up in the midfield. So you got teams that wouldn't have ordinarily got points, getting them regularly, and teams that were regularly getting points, now not really anywhere near it. So it's like, look, you've got to capitalise. This midfield is so close. If you want 1 or 2 points, you've got to be on it.
Yeah.
Right from the start.
100%. What rating are you giving to this race, then? Saudi.
Probably go with a 7, to be honest. I think it's a 7. Maybe that's a bit ambitious. Might be a bit generous, actually, the 7. I think it was due to some of the quality overtaken. You got Stroll around the outside, and the Haas move from Magnussen on Tsunoda, and various battles going on at the back. I mean, in terms of overtaking, it wasn't like. Yeah, and the run through the field from Max as well. There's things like that. There was good action on show. It just wasn't groundbreaking. It wasn't classic in any way, but there was still some good moments in there. So a generous 7.
Yeah, I'll probably give it a 6. I mean,
6.
To be fair, there's more overtaken there than there is at Monaco. So on that basis, there was some good overtakes. There was some. you know, like you said, good overtakes. But yeah, I'd probably give it about a 6. It was all right. It wasn't too bad. It would help if, you know, we didn't have someone running away with it all the time. But that's Formula One. You know,
that probably helped.
That's how it works.
But hey, this time it was Sergio running away with it, not Max.
Yes, very, very different.
Every cloud has a chrome blue lining. Would
you like to talk about the national anthem? We're very excited about that.
I'd love to talk about the national anthem. Yes, we should start with this now. Absolutely. I hope those that were watching the Grand Prix managed to catch the national anthem being played, because I think the band started practicing about 10 minutes before.
Yeah.
That would be putting it generously. Absolutely. I think the word is diabolical.
Oh my god.
Cats swinging against walls, you know, it was so out of time. And it was just not a fair reflection, frankly.
Did they have earpieces in? Because normally, like in that situation, you'd have earpieces in so you can hear yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can only assume that's why. But either way, it was absolutely dreadful. A difficult one to listen to.
Like this podcast. Very difficult list.
Yes, please, yeah. We talk about all the key points on the weekend, including the quality of the music.
Yes.
And
we've talked about
drivers
cooking.
And teams' eating habits. Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
It's been fulfilling today.
Top tier. Top tier. The very mention of food has brought Luna back into frame.
She's been here. So she's literally been this whole time. Sits there. Honestly, she drives me up the wall. She puts her hands on the keyboard. Her paws on the keyboard.
Hands.
Well, this is going to have to be edited down, isn't it? This has gone on for a long time. I had a lot to talk about, actually, considering it was only a mediocre race.
Yeah, right.
Blame FIA. Blame those. We are back next week.
Yeah.
With the Australian Grand Prix preview.
It will be, yeah.
Yeah.
A week Australia.
Prior. Yes. Love Australia. You just come back from there, haven't you?
I have indeed, yeah. It's very hot.
Yes.
Very hot.
I wonder how the cars are going to be under all that heat and...
Well, I mean, Bahrain, Jeddah will all be a very good indication of how the cars have been coping. In some cases, not too great. I can't lie. But, you know, it's a different climate altogether. So I think there'll be it's the humidity as well. Closeness to the air is going to be a problem in terms of the driver physicality and how the engines stay cool and things like that. Because Bahrain and Jeddah were night races, so there was cooler air coming through. And Melbourne, you got hotter tarmac, you know. So how's that going to affect tyres? And being a street circuit, high tyre wear, etc. The degs could be an issue. So, yeah, I mean, and there's a lot faster corners now. They've changed the track layout, as we know. So it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, definitely so. So make sure you are subscribed on YouTube. Follow on all major streaming. Not streaming. But streaming on the brain. Major podcast platforms.
There we are.
All the PP platforms. Follow us on all our socials. Make sure to like and leave us a review if you have enjoyed it. If it's bad, if you didn't enjoy it, don't leave us a review. We don't.
Yeah, we hate the bad reviews. We don't want to do that. It spoils our day.
Yeah.
Please don't.
So just carry on with your life and leave us alone.
We're open to criticism, but don't give us anything bad.
No.
All right?
No,
please don't.
No. Next week, Kieran's beard will be back.
It will.
I'll also be back. Luna will be back.
Without a beard.
Hopefully.
Just do a Will story and pull your hair under your chin. Yeah. See? Preview of next week.
I might have that beard somewhere when I dressed up as him.
There we are.
See, Will story will be here, ladies and germs.
The bearded backmarkers.
Yeah. Right, that's enough crazy for today. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. We'll be back next week. Make sure you are. Otherwise, there's nothing we can do about it. Take care. Enjoy your week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.